My name is Juliana, and at 42, I still wake up some mornings with my daughter's words echoing in my mind. You ruined my life, and now I'm living for myself. 10 years ago, I forced my 17-year-old daughter Ashley to skip her prom and babysit her brothers while I went to a work function. What seemed like a reasonable parenting decision then became the first domino in a cascade that would eventually shatter our relationship. Before I share my story, let me know where you're watching from and subscribe if you've ever had to face the consequences of your parental mistakes. I never intended to be a single mother of 3 children, but life rarely goes according to plan, does it? By 25, I had my beautiful daughter Ashley, and by 32, I was alone with her and my twin boys, Thomas and Ethan, who were just newborns when their father Brian decided family life wasn't for him. The day Brian packed his bags, Ashley was 7 years old. She stood in the doorway of our bedroom, clutching her favorite stuffed rabbit, watching silently as her father folded his clothes into a suitcase. I was in the nursery with the twins trying to calm their synchronized crying while fighting back tears of my own. When the front door closed, Ashley came to me and asked, "Is Daddy coming back?" I couldn't lie to those innocent eyes. "No, sweetheart. It's just going to be us now." From that day forward, I threw myself into survival mode. My associate degree in business administration landed me an entry-level position in pharmaceutical sales. The hours were long, the pressure intense, but the commission structure offered hope that I could eventually provide a stable life for my children. In those early years, I would leave before dawn, drop Ashley at before-school care, the twins at a daycare that stretched my budget to breaking point, and return home long after dinner time. Financial struggles defined our life. I juggled credit card debt borrowed from my reluctant parents, and sometimes chose between paying the electric bill or buying new shoes for Ashley's growing feet. My career required sacrifices. I missed school, plays, parent-teacher conferences, and countless bedtime stories. Each missed moment was rationalized away. I'm doing this for them. They'll understand someday. Ashley and I had been inseparable when she was young. I still remember how she would curl against me on our worn couch, both of us wrapped in a blanket as we read stories together during those precious weekend hours. But as the demands of raising 3 children alone intensified, those moments became increasingly rare. By the time Ashley entered her teenage years, the closeness we once shared had faded into polite distance. Despite our challenging circumstances, Ashley thrived. She maintained honor roll status throughout middle school and into high school. She joined the debate team, volunteered at the local animal shelter, and somehow managed to develop a vibrant social life. I'd like to say I fostered these achievements, but the truth is, Ashley succeeded despite my absence, not because of my support. The twins, Thomas and Ethan, were a different story. Their early developmental delays required specialized attention I couldn't consistently provide. They struggled with impulse control and often overwhelmed babysitters with their boundless energy and synchronized meltdowns. As they grew from toddlers to school-age boys, their behavioral issues became more pronounced. Teacher notes came home regularly, detailing disruptions and conflicts. My solution was pragmatic, but ultimately damaging. Ashley became their default caretaker. At first, it was just occasional evenings when I worked late, then weekends when I needed to catch up on household chores. By the time she was 15, Ashley was essentially a third parent, responsible for homework supervision, meal preparation, and bedtime routines whenever I was unavailable, which was often. When Ashley complained about the burden, I dismissed her concerns as teenage dramatics. "This is what families do," I would tell her. "We help each other out." I didn't recognize then how I was stealing her childhood one babysitting session at a time. To compensate for my emotional and physical absence, I fell into the trap many working parents do. I substituted gifts for time. When I missed Ashley's debate championship, I bought her an expensive necklace. When I was too exhausted to help with her college application essays, I promised her a laptop for graduation. These material offerings did little to fill the growing void between us, but they temporarily eased my guilt. As Ashley's junior year progressed, the topic of prom dominated our rare conversations. She had been dating Jackson Walsh since sophomore year, a thoughtful, academically minded boy from a stable 2-parent household. The contrast between our chaotic home and the orderly warmth of the Walsh family wasn't lost on me, nor was Ashley's increasing preference for spending time at their house rather than ours. The prom represented more than just a dance to Ashley. It symbolized normalcy, a rite of passage proof that despite our family circumstances, she could experience the same milestones as her peers. For months, she planned every detail, the group dinner with friends, before the dance, the professional photos, the after-party at her friend Sarah's house, whose parents had agreed to chaperone. In a rare moment of maternal enthusiasm, I took a Saturday off work to help Ashley shop for a dress. We found a floor-length gown in deep emerald that complemented her eyes perfectly. The price made me wince, but I handed over my credit card without hesitation. "Consider it a compromise for all the school events I've missed," I told her. The smile that lit up her face almost convinced me I was balancing motherhood and career successfully. How tragically wrong I was. 3 weeks before prom night, my regional manager Gary called me into his office. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as he closed the door behind me, his expression unreadable. My stomach knotted with anxiety, and pharmaceutical sales private meetings rarely brought good news. "Juliana," Gary began, settling behind his desk. "The national director is coming to town next Friday. He's requested dinner with the top performers in the region." He paused, allowing a small smile. "Your numbers this quarter put you on that list." Relief flooded through me quickly, followed by a surge of pride. After years of struggling to prove myself, my hard work was finally being recognized. This dinner wasn't just a social obligation. It represented the possible promotion I'd been chasing for years. A senior position would mean a substantial salary increase, better benefits, and most importantly, reduced travel requirements. "It's an honor," I said, already mentally reviewing my wardrobe for something appropriate. "What time should I be there?" Gary slid a formal invitation across his desk. 7 sharp. Morton's Steakhouse. Black tie optional. I picked up the heavy cardstock, my smile freezing, as I read the date, May 12th, prom night. My first instinct was to find an alternative caretaker for the twins. I called my parents, who lived 3 hours away and were already committed to a church retreat that weekend. My sister lived across the country. The handful of friends I'd managed to maintain, despite my work schedule, all had plans they couldn't break. The twins' behavioral issues had burned through our list of trusted babysitters months ago, with most refusing to return after one challenging evening. With each failed phone call, my desperation grew. I considered bringing the twins to the dinner, a thought I immediately dismissed as career suicide. Taking Ashley to the business event instead of her prom briefly crossed my mind, but even in my self-centered thinking, I recognized that would be unforgivably cruel. By Wednesday, 2 days before the event, I had exhausted all options. Standing in our kitchen watching Ashley arrange corsage photos on the refrigerator, I made the decision that would alter our relationship forever. "Ashley," I began cautiously, "we need to talk about Friday night." She turned, her expression bright with anticipation. "Did you decide about letting me stay at Sarah's after the dance? Her parents promised no drinking and they'll be home the entire time." I set my coffee mug down, forcing myself to meet her eyes. "There's been a change of plans. I need you to watch the boys on Friday night. I have a mandatory work dinner." Ashley's smile faltered, then disappeared entirely as my words registered. "You're joking, right?" When I didn't respond, her voice rose. "Mom, it's prom. We've been planning this for months. My dress, the tickets, everything is ready." "I understand it's disappointing," I said, slipping into the detached, reasonable tone I used in sales negotiations. "But this dinner is with the national director. It could mean a promotion." "Call a babysitter," Ashley suggested, panic edging into her voice. "I've tried everyone. Nobody's available." "Then take the twins with you. To a formal business dinner. Be realistic." Ashley's hands began to shake. "I've been babysitting for years. The one night I asked to be a normal teenager, you can't find anyone else." I felt defensive anger rising. "This isn't just about one night. This is about our future. A promotion means better hours, more money for college." "I've already been accepted to college," Ashley countered. "With scholarships. What about my future? What about tonight?" The argument escalated. Ashley called her father, reaching only his voicemail as usual. When she suggested Jackson's parents could watch the twins, I refused outright. "I'm not asking strangers to handle our family responsibilities," I declared, ignoring the hypocrisy that I regularly placed those same responsibilities on my teenage daughter. As Ashley's resistance crumbled into tears, I delivered the final blow. "You're being selfish, thinking only about a dance, when this dinner could change our lives. Family comes first, Ashley. You know that." Later that evening, I stood in my bedroom trying on outfits for the dinner, deliberately ignoring the muffled sobs coming from Ashley's room. A small voice inside warned me I was making a terrible mistake, but I silenced it with practiced justifications. This would benefit all of us in the long run. It was just one night. Ashley was being dramatic. Sacrifices were necessary. The night of the dinner arrived. I emerged from my bedroom in a tailored black dress and heels, my makeup carefully applied to conceal the stress of recent days. In the living room, Ashley sat silently on the couch wearing sweatpants and an old t-shirt, her hair pulled back in a careless ponytail. The contrast between her appearance and what should have been emerald gown, styled hair corsage, hit me with unexpected force. The twins bounded around the room excited about their movie night with Ashley. "We're going to watch superhero movies and have popcorn," Thomas announced, oblivious to the tension. "Don't stay up too late," I instructed, avoiding Ashley's gaze as I gathered my purse and keys. At the door, I hesitated. "Thank you for doing this," I offered weakly. Ashley's response was barely audible, like I had a choice. As I pulled out of the driveway, I glanced back at our house. Through the front window, I could see Ashley standing motionless, watching me leave. The image should have stopped me. It should have been enough to make me turn around, call Gary with an excuse, and right my wrong. Instead, I adjusted my rearview mirror and drove away, leaving my daughter to mourn the milestone I had stolen from her. The business dinner at Morton's Steakhouse gleamed with corporate success. Crystal glasses catching the light, executives in tailored suits exchanging practiced pleasantries, the hushed atmosphere of ambition and strategy. I should have been fully present, absorbing every networking opportunity, but my mind kept drifting to the image of Ashley alone with the twins, while her classmates danced in formal wear. The national director, Patrick Dennison, sat at the head of the table discussing regional growth strategies. I nodded at appropriate intervals, contributed comments that sounded confident, even as guilt churned beneath my professional facade. When Patrick asked directly about my sales approach in the pediatric market, I fumbled momentarily before regaining composure. "Sorry," I apologized. My mind was briefly elsewhere. Gary shot me a warning glance. This was my moment to shine, and I was squandering it over parental guilt. I forced myself to compartmentalize a skill I'd perfected over years of balancing work and single parenthood. By dessert, I'd managed to impress Patrick with my market insights and client retention statistics. The evening ended with handshakes and promises of future conversations about advancement opportunities. It was nearly midnight when I returned home. The house was quiet, illuminated only by the blue glow of the television, playing the menu screen of a superhero movie on loop. Ashley lay asleep on the couch, still in her sweatpants and t-shirt. Even in sleep, her expression held tension. As I moved closer, I noticed the dried tear tracks on her cheeks. A bowl of half-eaten popcorn sat on the coffee table alongside a can of soda and the twins' favorite action figures. Upstairs, I checked on Thomas and Ethan. They were asleep in their beds, blankets askew, nightlights casting soft shadows across their identical faces. Ashley had managed to get them bathed and settled despite what must have been overwhelming disappointment. The realization intensified my guilt rather than alleviating it. Back in the living room, I gently touched Ashley's shoulder. "I'm home," I whispered. "You can go to bed now." She stirred, blinking at me with red-rimmed eyes, before wordlessly rising from the couch and walking to her bedroom. The door closed with a soft click that somehow held more accusation than a slam would have. The following morning, I awoke to the sounds of the twins arguing over cereal. In the kitchen, they sat at the table while Ashley mechanically poured milk into their bowls. When I entered, she didn't acknowledge my presence. "How was the dinner?" she finally asked, her voice flat. "It went well," I replied, reaching for the coffee pot. Patrick seemed impressed. "There might be a promotion discussion soon." Ashley nodded, her face expressionless. "Good. I'm glad someone's night was worthwhile." She placed her empty cereal bowl in the sink and left the room. Throughout the weekend, my social media feed filled with prom photos. Ashley's friends in elegant dresses and tuxedos posing at the venue decorated in enchanted forest theme. Group shots at the pre-prom dinner at Bella Italian restaurant. Candid moments on the dance floor, Ashley absent from all of them. Jackson had texted multiple times offering to skip the dance and keep Ashley company, but she had insisted he go without her. In one particularly painful photo, I saw Jackson standing awkwardly in a group shot his boutonniere, matching the emerald dress Ashley never got to wear. The cold silence that followed in our house was worse than any argument. Ashley retreated into herself, responding to my questions with single words or shrugs. When she wasn't at school or mandatory extracurricular activities, she was at Jackson's house or with his family. My half-hearted attempts to make amends fell flat. I suggested a shopping trip to replace the prom experience Ashley declined. I offered to host a dinner for her and Jackson. She was busy. I even proposed a weekend away, just the two of us. She had debate team commitments. 2 weeks after prom night, Gary called me into his office again. The promotion was official regional sales manager with a 30% salary increase, comprehensive benefits, and more predictable hours. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, as I signed the paperwork, all I could think was, this cost too much. When I shared the news at dinner that evening, the twins cheered excitedly about the prospect of more presents. Ashley offered a perfunctory, "Congratulations," before asking to be excused. As senior year began, Ashley threw herself into college applications. Her academic performance remained stellar, but something had shifted in her approach to home life. She no longer complained about babysitting, she simply informed me when she would be unavailable and left me to make alternative arrangements. She spent Thanksgiving with Jackson's family, claiming a group project deadline prevented her from joining our small celebration. By Christmas, the acceptances began arriving. Ashley had applied primarily to schools on the East Coast, as far from our Arizona home as geographically possible within the continental United States. When the thick envelope from Boston University arrived with a substantial scholarship offer, her decision was immediate. 3,000 miles seems about right, she remarked, the first hint of emotion I'd seen from her in months. The subtext was clear, Ashley was planning her escape. Not just to college, most teenagers look forward to that independence, but from our family. From me. During the final summer before college, Ashley was physically present but emotionally elsewhere. She worked full-time at a local bookstore, socializing with co-workers after hours and spending weekends with Jackson and his family. We existed in the same house like polite strangers, sharing temporary accommodations. At her graduation ceremony, I sat with the twins, tears blurring my vision as Ashley crossed the stage as salutatorian. At the reception afterward, she introduced me to teachers and friends' parents with formal politeness that hurt more than anger would have. "This is my mother, Juliana," she would say, the emphasis subtle but unmistakable. Not my mum or my family, just the biological designation stripped of warmth. The contrast between Ashley's interaction with me and with Jackson's parents was stark. With them, she was animated, affectionate, engaged. Mrs. Walsh adjusted Ashley's graduation cap with maternal tenderness. Mr. Walsh captured photos of Ashley and Jackson with obvious pride. They had become the surrogate parents who attended debates when I was working, who celebrated achievements I heard about after the fact, who provided the stable home environment I had failed to create. A week before Ashley was scheduled to leave for Boston, she informed me during dinner, "I won't be coming home for Thanksgiving or Christmas. The flights are too expensive, and I can stay with my roommate's family in Connecticut." The twins protested loudly. They adored their big sister, despite the complex family dynamics. I sat silently, recognizing the decision had nothing to do with airfare and everything to do with creating distance. "But you'll come home for summer break, right?" Thomas asked anxiously. Ashley focused on her plate. "I've applied for summer research programs and campus jobs. It makes more sense to stay there." The message was unmistakable. Ashley was severing ties, one holiday, one break, one tradition at a time. Move-in day at Boston University arrived with New England humidity that made carrying boxes up 3 flights of stairs particularly grueling. Ashley had coordinated her dormitory arrival time with Jackson, who would be attending Northeastern just 2 miles away, and his family. By the time the twins and I arrived at her assigned residence hall, the Walshes were already efficiently organizing Ashley's side of the room. Mrs. Walsh embraced Ashley warmly when we approached. "We've got most of your clothes unpacked, dear. Jackson and his father are bringing up the last of your desk supplies." "Thanks, Linda," Ashley replied with genuine affection. She then turned to us with a noticeably cooler demeanor. "You guys made good time." The twins immediately began exploring the small dormitory room, asking rapid-fire questions about college life. I stood awkwardly with the single suitcase I had carried up, feeling like an intruder rather than a parent. Jackson's father entered, carrying a printer, giving me a cordial nod before helping Ashley set up her desk area. "Do you need help with anything else?" I asked, desperate to be useful in this transition moment. "I think we've got it covered," Ashley answered, not meeting my eyes. The Walshes brought tools for assembling my storage units. The day proceeded with excruciating politeness. Ashley patiently answered the twins' questions, accepted their handmade going-away cards with appropriate gratitude, and even allowed a quick family photo that Mr. Walsh offered to take. But when the moment of departure came, her hug was brief and formal. "Study hard," I said lamely, fighting tears. "Always do," she replied, already turning toward Jackson and his parents to make dinner plans. That first semester communication was sparse. Ashley responded to texts with single words or emojis. Our weekly phone calls lasted barely 10 minutes, filled with surface-level updates about classes and weather. She shared more details about her college experience through social media posts than in our direct conversations. My promotion had indeed brought better hours, but paradoxically required more travel for regional meetings. While I no longer worked regular evenings, I found myself away from home for days at a time, attending conferences and training sessions across the Southwest. The twins, now 9 years old, cycled through a series of after-school programs and babysitters, none providing the consistent care they needed. Their behavioural issues escalated with my frequent absences. Thomas became increasingly withdrawn, his grades slipping as he struggled with attention in class. Ethan developed a quick temper, lashing out at classmates and earning regular visits to the principal's office. Their paediatrician suggested counselling for both boys, a recommendation I acknowledged but struggled to implement with my travel schedule. Rather than addressing the root cause, my absence, I threw money at the problem. I hired tutors, enrolled the boys in sports programs, purchased the latest gaming systems to keep them occupied. When the school counsellor called about Ethan's aggressive behaviour, I arranged for a part-time nanny with experience in childhood behavioural management. When Thomas began experiencing anxiety-induced stomach aches, I found a therapist who offered weekend appointments that occasionally aligned with my schedule. Meanwhile, Ashley thrived in Boston. Her social media showed her engaged in campus activities, making new friends, excelling academically. She joined the university debate team, participated in political action committees, and secured a coveted research position with a prominent economics professor. Her transformation was visible even through carefully curated photos. She seemed lighter, more confident, genuinely happy in a way I hadn't seen since her early adolescence. When summer approached, I made half-hearted attempts to convince Ashley to come home. She declined, citing the research position that would continue through summer term. Instead, she sublet an apartment with 2 classmates, spending weekends with Jackson, and occasionally visiting his parents, who made the trip to Boston several times. My disappointment was selfish. The twins needed their sister, but I also craved the chance to repair our relationship. When I pressed her during a rare phone call, Ashley's carefully maintained composure finally cracked. "Be honest, Mom," she said, her voice tight. "You only want me home to watch the twins so you can work without guilt." The accusation stung precisely because it contained truth. "That's not fair," I protested. "We miss you. The boys ask about you constantly." "I miss them too," Ashley replied, her tone softening momentarily. "But I need this time away. I'm building my own life here." The implication hung between us, a life separate from me and the responsibilities I had forced upon her. When I responded defensively, instead of listening to her underlying message, Ashley withdrew again. Our call ended with polite goodbyes that felt like closing doors. The pattern continued through sophomore and junior years. Ashley's appearances in our home became increasingly rare and brief. She spent 1 week at Christmas her sophomore year, most of it with Jackson's family in Phoenix. During her junior year spring break, she participated in a service trip to New Orleans instead of coming home. Each absence was explained with logical reasons: internship opportunities, academic commitments, affordable travel alternatives. But the cumulative effect was a daughter systematically disconnecting from her family of origin. Rather than confront the growing estrangement, I channeled my energy into work. My regional team consistently exceeded sales targets under my leadership. I received performance bonuses, industry recognition, invitations to speak at sales conferences. Professional success became my refuge from familial failure. The twins entered middle school, their identical faces growing distinct with personality and experience. Thomas developed an interest in computer programming, spending hours creating simple games that temporarily focused his scattered attention. Ethan discovered track and field, his excess energy finding productive outlet in competitive running. But both boys continued struggling with emotional regulation, their teacher conferences filled with phrases like potential not being reached and disruptive classroom behaviour. Without Ashley's stabilising presence, our home life lacked structure. The boys ate dinner in front of television screens more often than at the kitchen table. Homework was completed haphazardly, if at all, despite the rotating cast of tutors and after-school programs. Weekend outings became rare as my work depleted my physical and emotional energy. The breaking point came during Ashley's college graduation. After 4 years of minimal contact, I was determined to be present for this milestone. I arranged coverage for the twins with a trusted neighbour and booked flights to Boston, planning to attend both the departmental honours ceremony and main commencement. My regional quarterly review meeting ran long, causing me to miss my original flight. By the time I secured an alternative route with multiple connections, I arrived at the economics department honours reception just as it was concluding. Ashley stood surrounded by professors and classmates, a special honours cord adorning her graduation robe. Jackson and his parents were taking photos with her when I approached wheeling my carry-on suitcase that hadn't made it to the hotel. "I'm so sorry I'm late," I said, slightly breathless from rushing across campus. The meeting went overtime and then my flight was cancelled. Ashley's smile tightened. "It's fine. You missed the ceremony, but at least you're here for tomorrow's commencement." Mrs. Walsh gave me a sympathetic but slightly judgmental look before suggesting we all go to dinner to celebrate. At the restaurant, conversation flowed around me as Ashley discussed her job offers with animation. She had received multiple opportunities from financial consulting firms, primarily in New York and Washington, D.C. "Have you decided which offer you're accepting?" I asked, trying to engage. "Actually," Ashley exchanged glances with Jackson. "We've made a decision. Jackson's been accepted to a graduate engineering program at Stanford, and I've received an amazing offer from a firm in San Francisco. We're moving to California together." The announcement hit like a physical blow. California, that's even further from home than Boston. "It's an incredible opportunity," Ashley continued. "The firm specializes in economic development projects with environmental sustainability focus." "It sounds perfect for you," Mrs. Walsh interjected warmly. "We're so proud of both of you, even if we'll miss having you closer to Phoenix." My reaction focused entirely on my own feelings rather than Ashley's accomplishment. "I just thought, now that you're finishing school, maybe you'd consider opportunities closer to home. The twins really miss having you around." A flash of irritation crossed Ashley's face. "Mom, I haven't lived at home for 4 years. My career decisions can't revolve around babysitting." "That's not what I meant." I backpedaled, aware of the Walshes witnessing our exchange. "Family should be a consideration, that's all." "Family works both ways," Ashley replied, her voice taking on an edge that silenced the table. "You taught me that career comes first. I've learnt that lesson very well." The tension escalated as dinner progressed. My comments about the expense of San Francisco living and the distance from Arizona were met with increasingly clipped responses. When I mentioned that a prestigious firm in Phoenix had an excellent development program, Ashley set down her fork with deliberate control. "I need some air," she announced, standing abruptly. I followed her outside the restaurant, aware we were creating an uncomfortable scene. In the warm Boston evening, Ashley turned to face me. "Why can't you just be happy for me? This is exactly what I've worked toward for 4 years." "I am happy for you," I insisted. "I just thought graduation might mean a fresh start for us as a family." "A fresh start?" Ashley's carefully maintained composure finally shattered. "You've had a decade to prioritize family, and you chose work every single time. You don't get to play the family card now that it's convenient for you." "That's not fair. Everything I did was for you and the boys." "No," Ashley's voice rose. "Everything you did was for your career. We were just the excuse you used to justify your choices." Passers-by glanced our way as the argument escalated. Years of resentment poured out of Ashley in a torrent of accusations, missed events, outsourced parenting responsibilities, emotional neglect disguised as financial necessity. "You ruined my life," she finally declared, tears streaming down her face. "And now I'm living for myself." I watched helplessly as she turned and walked back into the restaurant, where she composed herself and rejoined the Walshes. I remained outside, unable to face the group after our public confrontation. Through the window, I could see Ashley leaning against Jackson, his arm protective around her shoulders as his parents spoke soothingly. They were her family now in all the ways that mattered. I returned to Arizona the next day, missing the main commencement ceremony entirely. Ashley didn't call to acknowledge my absence or to say goodbye before leaving for California 2 weeks later. The physical distance between us now matched the emotional chasm that had been growing for years. The years following Ashley's graduation passed in a blur of professional success and personal emptiness. Communication with my daughter reduced to perfunctory holiday cards, occasional forced phone calls on birthdays, and social media glimpses into a life flourishing without my presence. Ashley and Jackson settled in the Bay Area, their careers advancing rapidly in parallel trajectories of achievement. When their engagement announcement appeared on my Facebook feed, rather than through a personal call, the pain was sharp but not surprising. The wedding planning proceeded without my input. Ashley's occasional updates were clearly provided out of obligation rather than desire for my involvement. When she mentioned that Mrs. Walsh was helping select her dress and venue, I swallowed my hurt and offered financial contribution instead of asking for inclusion. "That's not necessary," Ashley replied stiffly. "We're covering the costs ourselves, and Jackson's parents are helping with some traditional elements." The message was clear. My checkbook was not needed or wanted as a substitute for the maternal role I had abdicated years earlier. While my career thrived, I was promoted to divisional vice president with oversight of sales teams across 5 states. My home life deteriorated further. The twins entered their teenage years with the stormy intensity that stage brings, even in the most stable households. In our broken family system, their adolescence manifested in troubling ways. Thomas, now 13, withdrew into online gaming, his social anxiety making traditional teenage activities overwhelming. Ethan channeled his emotions into increasingly risky behaviors, staying out past curfew, associating with older students known for troublemaking, experimenting with alcohol stolen from my poorly monitored liquor cabinet. I addressed these issues as I had handled all parenting challenges with material solutions rather than presents. Thomas received expensive gaming equipment and coding classes that inadvertently enabled his isolation. Ethan was enrolled in structured sports programs that he frequently skipped the participation checks. I wrote funding activities I never discovered. My work schedule remained demanding despite my senior position. While I no longer worked the unpredictable hours of my early sales career, I traveled extensively for leadership conferences, board meetings, and client presentations. The twins became latchkey kids by default. Their after-school hours unsupervised, despite my financial resources to provide better care. The physical manifestations of stress began appearing with concerning frequency. Migraine headaches kept me bedridden on rare weekends home. Insomnia left me exhausted and irritable. My physician noted elevated blood pressure and concerning cholesterol levels during my annual physical but prescribed medication rather than lifestyle changes, acknowledging the demands of my position. The breaking point arrived unexpectedly during a routine presentation to shareholders. Midway through explaining quarterly projections, my vision blurred at the edges. My heart raced uncontrollably, sweat beading along my hairline, despite the aggressively air-conditioned conference room. When my hands began trembling too severely to manage the presentation remote, my assistant intervened, calling for a break and helping me to a private office. "I think you're having a panic attack," she said quietly, handing me a glass of water. "My sister gets them. Should I call someone?" The emergency room doctor confirmed this diagnosis, adding that my blood pressure had reached dangerously high levels. "This is your body sending a very clear warning that," he explained. "Executive stress is a significant health risk that many people ignore until something catastrophic happens." At home recovering, I received a text from Thomas. "Ethan got suspended for fighting. School wants parent meeting tomorrow." Unable to reach the school before they closed for the day, I texted Ashley out of desperation, explaining my health situation and asking if she could video call the twins to settle them until I was discharged. Her response was unexpectedly prompt, but detached. "I've contacted Mrs. Chambers next door. She'll check on them and bring dinner. I've also arranged for my friend Stephanie, who teaches at Phoenix Central, to attend the school meeting as your representative if you're not released in time. Focus on your health. Efficient, practical, completely devoid of personal involvement." When I was released the following day with strict orders for 2 weeks of medical leave, the doctor's warning echoed in my mind. "If you don't make significant changes, we'll be having a much more serious conversation after your inevitable next episode." Forced inactivity gave me unwelcome time to reflect. In our quiet house with the twins at school, I wandered into Ashley's old bedroom, preserved almost exactly as she had left it for college 7 years earlier. Opening her closet, I found the garment bag containing her emerald prom dress, still with tags attached, the plastic yellowing slightly with age. I sat on her bed holding the dress she never wore, memories flooding back with painful clarity. Every milestone I had missed, every responsibility I had placed on her young shoulders, every time I had chosen work over family while claiming the opposite. The twins' school called later that week. Thomas had stopped turning in assignments entirely. Ethan had been caught with cigarettes in his backpack. The counsellor spoke with the weary patience of someone who had tried to reach me many times before. "Mrs. Hamilton," she said gently, "the boys are showing classic signs of parental neglect. I understand you're a single mother with career demands, but they need consistent supervision and emotional support." "I provide for them," I protested weakly. "They have everything they need." "Except present parenting, yay," she countered. "Material provisions don't replace relationship. I'd like to recommend family therapy along with individual counseling for both boys. This time, instead of making excuses about my schedule, I agreed. The first therapy session was excruciating. The psychologist, Dr. Martinez, created a safe space for the twins to express their feelings about our family dynamics. Their words cut deeper than Ashley's accusations because they came without anger, just the straightforward observations of children who had accepted emotional absence as normal. "Mum's always working or tired from work," Thomas explained with a shrug. "We learnt to take care of ourselves. Ashley was more like our mum anyway," Ethan added. But then she left too. During my individual session, Dr. Martinez gently guided me toward uncomfortable insights. "You've been operating in survival mode for so long that it became your default even when it was no longer necessary," she observed. "The promotion that should have given you more family time, instead, became permission to work differently, but just as obsessively." As therapy continued, I began recognizing the patterns in my parenting, how I had justified work obligations as financial necessity long after our economic situation stabilized, how I had transferred my parental responsibilities to Ashley, then resented her for establishing boundaries, how I had substituted material provision for emotional presence with all 3 children. I wrote a lengthy letter to Ashley that I didn't immediately send, confronting my failures with raw honesty rather than defensive justification. The writing process was cathartic but terrifying. Acknowledging the damage I had caused meant accepting I might never repair the relationship with my daughter. While I was drafting the 5th revision of this unsent letter, a notification appeared on my phone. Ashley had updated her profile picture on social media. The new image showed her standing sideways, one hand resting on a visibly pregnant belly, Jackson's arm around her shoulders. The caption read simply, "Baby Walsh arriving in September." I learned of my impending grandchild through an algorithm rather than a phone call. The realization that Ashley might never allow me to know her child broke something fundamental inside me. That night, alone in my bedroom, while the twins slept, I experienced what Dr. Martinez would later help me identify as a rock-bottom moment. The complete collapse of my carefully constructed justifications and the painful acceptance of the consequences of my choices. The breakdown became my breakthrough. With Dr. Martinez's guidance, I made fundamental life changes that would have seemed unthinkable months earlier. I requested a meeting with the company's executive leadership team, prepared to resign if necessary to prioritize my family. "I need to step back from divisional leadership," I explained to the surprised CEO. "My family situation requires me to remain in Phoenix with minimal travel and predictable hours." To my surprise, rather than accepting my effective resignation, they offered alternatives. "Your leadership is valuable, Juliana. What if we restructured your role to focus on regional accounts exclusively? You'd maintain senior status and most of your compensation, but with local territory and standard business hours." The demotion meant surrendering significant status and some financial benefits, but it offered what money couldn't buy: time. For the first time since the twins were born, I established a work schedule that ended reliably at 5 o'clock. No overnight travel, no weekend client emergencies, no sacrificing family events for career advancement. Rebuilding relationship with Thomas and Ethan became my priority. Their initial skepticism was palpable. They had grown accustomed to broken promises and last-minute cancellations. When I announced family dinner would become a nightly tradition, Ethan rolled his eyes. "Until your next big client meeting," he muttered. Consistency gradually earned their trust. I helped with homework, attended parent-teacher conferences, learnt the names of their friends and the details of their interests. Thomas cautiously showed me his latest programming project. I sat beside him asking questions until I understood enough to genuinely appreciate his skills. Ethan reluctantly allowed me to attend his track meets, eventually seeking me in the stands after finishing races. Therapy sessions became a family priority. Dr. Martinez created space for difficult conversations about abandonment, fears, resentment, and the grief of growing up without consistent parental presence. The twins' behavioral issues didn't disappear overnight, but with consistent structure and emotional support, they began showing improvement at school and at home. "You're acting different," Thomas observed one evening as we prepared dinner together. "Like actually here even when you're home." "I'm trying to be the parent you deserved all along," I replied, fighting tears. 2 months into my new routine, I finally sent the letter to Ashley. I wrote without expectation of forgiveness, taking full responsibility for the damage I had caused without burdening her with my guilt or asking for absolution. I acknowledged her pregnancy with sincere congratulations, promising to respect whatever boundaries she established regarding her child. The weeks of silence that followed were excruciating, but expected. I focused on rebuilding life with the twins, establishing new traditions and repairing old wounds. We began Sunday hiking excursions, discovered board games that engaged their competitive spirits, and transformed the neglected backyard into a comfortable outdoor living space where conversation flowed more easily than across the formal dining table. While sorting through long-neglected storage boxes, I discovered Ashley's childhood memorabilia art projects, from elementary school ribbons, from middle school debate tournaments, the stuffed rabbit she had clutched the day her father left. I created a memory box, not knowing if she would ever want these artifacts of her past, but preserving them with the care they deserved. 6 weeks after I sent the letter, a text appeared from Ashley. "Thank you for your letter. I need time to process everything, but I appreciate your honesty." The message was brief, but represented the first unforced communication in years. I responded with equal brevity, "Take all the time you need. My love for you has never wavered, even when my actions failed to show it." Our exchanges remained minimal, but gradually increased. Ashley sent a formal birth announcement when Sophia Grace Walsh arrived in September. I responded with congratulatory gifts for the baby, with a note explicitly stating no strings were attached. When Ashley sent a polite thank you, I resisted the urge to push for more, respecting the fragile thread of communication we had established. 3 months after Sophia's birth, an unexpected message appeared. "Would you like to video call this weekend? Sophia is starting to smile, and I thought you might like to see." That first video call was awkward, dominated by long pauses and careful conversation. Ashley held Sophia toward the camera, narrating the baby's recent developments with the pride unique to new parents. I asked appropriate questions, complimented Sophia's resemblance to Ashley as an infant, and deliberately avoided any hint of entitlement to this relationship. As the call concluded, Ashley hesitated before saying, "Jackson's parents have been encouraging me to give you another chance. They believe family connections are important for Sophia." The revelation that Jackson's parents, who had every reason to maintain boundaries on Ashley's behalf, had advocated for reconciliation, brought unexpected tears. "I'm grateful for their perspective," I managed, "and for this chance to meet Sophia even virtually." The video calls became monthly occurrences, gradually increasing in length and comfort level. Ashley began sharing more details about her life in California, her parenting experiences, her professional challenges. I offered support without advice, validation without judgment, presence without expectation. Meanwhile, my relationship with the twins continued strengthening. Thomas, encouraged by my genuine interest, emerged from his digital isolation enough to join a coding club at school. Ethan's disciplinary issues decreased as his home environment stabilized. Both boys began speaking occasionally about their sister, without the underlying resentment that had previously colored those conversations. "Do you think Ashley will ever visit with the baby?" Thomas asked one evening after a video call where he had briefly waved to his infant niece. "I hope so," I answered honestly, "but that's Ashley's decision to make. All we can do is continue healing our family here and keep the door open." 2 years passed with gradual cautious improvement in family relationships. The twins entered high school, their identical faces now distinctly reflecting their diverging personalities and interests. Thomas discovered entrepreneurial ambitions alongside his programming skills, creating simple apps with commercial potential. Ethan channeled his energy into both athletics and school leadership, his charisma finding positive expression as student council representative. Our home transformed from a way station where family members briefly crossed paths to a genuine gathering place. Weekend brunches became tradition, with the boys taking turns choosing recipes and helping prepare meals. The backyard fire pit hosted evening conversations about school challenges, friend dynamics, and increasingly thoughts about college and future plans. The work-life balance I had considered impossible now seemed natural, my reconfigured career providing both financial stability and family presence. When Sophia turned 2, Ashley tentatively suggested bringing her to Arizona to meet her grandmother and uncles in person. The proposed visit was brief, just 3 days, but represented monumental progress in our healing journey. I spent weeks preparing, alternating between excitement and anxiety. The guest room was arranged with a toddler bed borrowed from a colleague. Age-appropriate toys filled a basket in the living room. The refrigerator stocked with Ashley's favorite foods and toddler-friendly options for Sophia. The twins, initially awkward about their sister's impending visit, gradually caught my enthusiasm, Thomas researching child development to understand his niece's capabilities, Ethan practicing silly voices guaranteed to make a toddler laugh. When Ashley and Sophia arrived at Phoenix Airport, the moment held all the tension and hope that had built over years of separation and tentative reconciliation. Sophia clung shyly to her mother's neck while Ashley surveyed me with cautious eyes. The twins stood awkwardly beside me, suddenly teenagers again, rather than the young men they were becoming. "Welcome home," I said simply, resisting the urge to envelop them in overwhelming hugs. Ashley nodded, adjusting Sophia on her hip. "It's been a while." That first visit progressed from initial stiffness to cautious warmth. Watching Ashley with Sophia revealed everything I had failed to be as a mother, fully present, attentive to subtle needs, balancing boundaries with affection. She had developed parenting instincts despite, rather than because of my example. On the second evening, after Sophia was asleep and the twins had retreated to their rooms, Ashley and I sat on the back patio, the desert night wrapping around us like a familiar blanket. "You've changed," Ashley observed, studying me over her tea mug. "I had to," I replied simply. "The path I was on nearly cost me everything that matters." Ashley nodded, her expression thoughtful. "The boys seem different too, happier. We've all been working through a lot in therapy, learning to actually be a family instead of just occupying the same house." A comfortable silence settled between us before Ashley spoke again. "You know, I was right to walk away when I did." The statement might once have triggered my defenses. Now I simply nodded. "You were. I couldn't see it then, but creating that distance was the healthiest choice you could have made." It wasn't easy, Ashley admitted, surprising me with her vulnerability. "Cutting ties with you hurt. There were so many times during college I wanted to call you about something exciting or ask for advice. But each time I considered it, I remembered all the times I had needed you and you weren't there. I'm sorry, Ashley, more than I can ever adequately express." "I know you are now," she acknowledged. "I can see the changes you've made with the boys. It's why I felt ready for this visit." That conversation became the foundation for a new relationship, not erasing the past, but acknowledging it honestly while creating possibility for a different future. The visit ended with tentative plans for Christmas, Ashley agreeing the twins could come to California to experience Sophia's holiday excitement. Over the following months, our communication increased in both frequency and depth. Ashley began asking occasional parenting questions, not because she lacked confidence, but as a bridge between us, a shared territory where we could meet as adults. I offered perspectives carefully, always emphasizing that her instincts were sound. During a video call where Sophia showed off new vocabulary words, Ashley suddenly said, I never told you this, but I did go to prom that night." The statement caught me completely off guard. "What? How? After you left for your dinner and the twins were watching movies, Jackson came over. His parents knew how important prom was to me, so they offered to stay with the twins while Jackson and I went to his house. I changed into my dress there and we took photos in their backyard. We missed the actual dance, but they arranged a special dinner for us and his dad played music so we could have one dance. It wasn't what I had planned, but they made sure I had something." She reached off screen and returned with her phone, scrolling to find photographs I had never seen Ashley in the emerald dress I had purchased, standing in a garden with Jackson in his rented tuxedo. Her corsage matched his boutonniere. Her smile looked genuine despite the circumstances. "They made sure to document everything for me," Ashley continued. "Mrs. Walsh said every girl deserves prom pictures. They didn't tell you because I asked them not to. I was so angry with you then." The revelation left me with complicated emotions, sadness that my daughter had needed surrogate parents to salvage her milestone relief, that she hadn't completely missed the experience, pride in her resilience, gratitude to the family who had stepped in where I had failed. "I'm glad you had that," I said finally. "You deserved your prom night and so much more." 6 months after that first visit, we arranged a family vacation to San Diego Neutral Territory, where new memories could be created without the weight of past disappointments shadowing our interactions. The twins, now 16, had developed genuine affection for their niece. Thomas created a simple gaming app specifically designed for Sophia's developmental stage. Ethan spent hours at the beach building increasingly elaborate sandcastles with her tireless enthusiasm. Watching my children together, Ashley patient with her brother's clumsy affection for Sophia, the twins respectful of the boundaries. Ashley established, all three occasionally sharing inside jokes that excluded but delighted me. I glimpsed the family we might have been all along, had I made different choices. Today at 42, our healing remains incomplete but ongoing. Ashley and I speak weekly, our conversations evolving from careful civility to genuine interest. The twins video chat regularly with their sister and niece, developing relationships independent of my involvement. Jackson, whose family modelled healthy dynamics when ours was fractured, has become an unexpected ally in rebuilding family connections. My career continues in its reconfigured form, successful, but contained no longer the central pillar of my identity. The twins' upcoming graduation reminds me daily how quickly children transition to adulthood, reinforcing my commitment to presence over ambition during these precious remaining years before they leave for college. I've begun mentoring younger women in pharmaceutical sales, sharing not just business strategies, but hard-earned wisdom about work-life integration. Success that costs your family isn't success. I tell them without judgment, but with the conviction of someone who nearly lost everything to that misguided definition of achievement. The journey from selfish ambition to authentic awareness continues daily. Trust damaged over years rebuilds slowly with setbacks and breakthroughs marking our progress. I lost my daughter's childhood to my career, a reality I cannot change, but I refuse to lose her adulthood to my pride. Every morning, I still sometimes wake to Ashley's words echoing in my mind. You ruined my life, and now I'm living for myself. The pain has transformed, though. What once felt like accusation now serves as reminder of the growth we've both experienced. Ashley finding her voice and boundaries, me learning to listen and change. Her life wasn't ruined after all, just following a path different than either of us had imagined. And in that different path, we're finding our way back to each other, one difficult conversation, one honest moment, one family gathering at a time. Have you ever had to rebuild a relationship that seemed beyond repair? What helped you through that process? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments. If this resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share with someone who might need to hear this message of hope after mistakes. Thank you for listening to my journey, and remember, it's never too late to change your priorities and heal family wounds.